Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of our Expert's Voice podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of hosting Dominika Kiszkiel, the UI designer at Autentika, and we'll be talking about creating design systems. But first, Dominika, I would like to welcome you and ask you to introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so thank you for introducing me. I'm a UI designer and I'm working on design systems here in Autentika. And I've spent most of the time maintaining the design system for our client, specifically by working with its documentation for developers. Personally, I like working with complex problems and finding the best solution which takes into account all of the different variables. Working with design systems also has this element of constant learning. There are so many new tools in development. The knowledge about the process is changing. And even when it comes to documentation for design systems, nothing here is written in stone. It adapts to the technologies and ever-changing needs of the companies.
So, as the first thing, can we define what a design system is?
So a design system is a collection of pre-built, reusable assets, such as components, patterns, guidances. These allow its users to build consistent digital experiences faster. By using the pre-built and universal assets of the design system, the time teams spend designing and building is minimized. Instead of building and rebuilding basic elements, they can spend the time customizing their products to address their specific client use case.
And can you give us an example of how it works in practice?
Let's think about this use case. A client has a complicated, large-in-scale ecosystem of 10 plus apps, where each app is made of a different set of components, which in development use separate building blocks. Each of these apps has a unique user interface that differs greatly from each other in terms of design and development. At some point, there is a need to add some new functionality to the application. You need to design some new components suitable to be used for this new feature. It generates cost for design, development, and quality assurance. It also takes a lot of time to plan work for each of these apps because of their individual user interface. So, how would it look if all these apps used one set of rules and shared the same library of components and patterns throughout the whole system? Many companies have already seen the advantages of using a design system for their apps. Think about material design system, carbon, ant design, and many more. Many companies use existing design systems because they know it greatly cuts their cost on each stage of work. It maintains a consistency, unification of user experience, user interface, and what is most important, it provides a process to maintain your apps in the future.
Okay, but then why create a new design system for your company if you can use an already known, globally used system that is proven to work?
These existing design systems were designed specifically for some use cases. Carbon is a system designed for IBM digital products, and it is aligned with their company design language. The same goes for material design by Google. They are open source and free to use by others. And they also were designed for a particular use case. And even though they provide a universal set of rules and components, these still adhere to some specific company needs. So if your company specializes in a different industry, work on the products that are much more nuanced and specific, then these rules and components set up in these design systems would not be enough to suit your needs best. You would need to create some changes in these design systems, have them aligned with your priorities. And if this list of changes grows, there is a risk of creating some inconsistency. There is also a risk of not keeping up with the changes you have already made. And if the list of changes is so long, why use this design system anyway? That's why creating a design system tailored to your company's needs can be an optimal solution. You can set up these rules in a way that suits your whole company best.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the process. Can you describe what creating a design system looks like?
Okay, I will tell you about the general process here of creating a design system. We start by making an inventory of the client's apps. We gather as much information about his ecosystem and processes as we can. We put these apps into different categories regarding their functionalities and level of importance. We find one app that would be our basis for creating a design system. It should be a main app in terms of functionalities. If a client doesn't have one, we design it. Then we check which elements of these apps are suitable to be put as a component. We start to put each component into the library. Then we have a discussion with the developer, and together we find the best solution on how to implement these components into the system. When the component is developed, we test it, review it, and make some revisions if there is a need for it. Then it is time to document it. Design system rules, foundations, patterns, and of course components should be thoroughly documented. All of these steps are done, then we can say that we have finished creating a design system.
I have heard that design systems are really never finished and that we should treat them rather like projects than finished products. Is that true?
It is partially true. You would say that a design system is a product rather than a project because of its features. But also, it is not a finite product. So your users are starting to use design system in their apps. Think about it. They share some feedback, suggest some improvements that could be beneficial for the whole system. And maybe there's some need for a new variant of a component. Or maybe because of a new functionality in the app, there is a need for creating an entirely new component. You need to have a process here that will keep your design system adaptable to change. This stage of work is the maintenance phase, and it is a continuous operation of keeping your design system up to date with user experience, technology, your apps, and organizational changes. It requires time and a team, but there is much less involvement here than in the previous phase.
So, what would you say is the biggest challenge in creating design systems? From your experience, what has been the most difficult?
So, one of the biggest challenges here that you need to have in mind, in my opinion, is how the components will be used in the future, and keep this in mind while designing. This is not a simple thing. Before you start, you need to have a good understanding of clients' present ecosystem of apps. But what about the future? You need to be prepared for growth of your system and anticipate what will be needed in the future. While designing a component, you need to make a space for possible new variants. Think about what smaller components should be used inside and plan a space for additional components. The challenge is you don't know for sure how the applications will grow, what will be needed in the future from the design system. So you need to speculate and provide the best solution with knowledge of the system that you currently have.
Okay, I think I get it. I think I understand. You mentioned documentation as essential to building a design system. So why is documentation so important?
Documentation is a chronicle of your design system's teamwork. It provides information about what has been done, why it has been done, and how to use it. It should be your one source of truth when it comes to the design system. All of the team's work should center around it. Consistency in the design system, it is its foundation. So to keep a consistent design system, you need to write down all of the knowledge about it and share it for others. It really helps teams communicate and use the design system with confidence.
Do you have any universal advice for other UI designers who face this challenge of building a design system?
First of all, you should never forget the benefits it brings to the client. Having a unique application helps you act faster and more effectively. And second, a custom-made design system speeds up the process of building a design and development part of your work. So it can be very fast. For example, in our case, when we were working with, when we have designed a design system for our client, afterwards, it took only 42 hours to design application using the components from the design system. So it really cut out all of this unnecessary additional work. You could test it and create application pretty much very quickly here.
Yeah, that was really fast. All right, thank you so much for the conversation. And I encourage everyone to follow us on Spotify, on YouTube, and visit our blog for more insights about design systems, UI, and our work for newsrooms. Thank you, Dominika.
Thank you very much.